Hey everyone, today I'm going to be telling you and showing you a little bit about bones, what is in them, what is their function, and their shapes, how they're classified. I hope you enjoy it. We've got some tasty facts, and like they say in France, bon appetit. So we're talking about the skeletal system, and when someone refers to the skeletal system, they're referring to bones, but also tendons, the things that connect muscle to bones, ligaments that connect bones to other bones without any muscle in between, as well as teeth. We're going to focus on bone today specifically. You have 206 bones in your body, in an adult body. Those bones are classified by shape. There are long bones, such as the humerus and the femur in the leg. And a long bone, it's longer than it is short. It has a middle part and two ends that bulge out. Short bones are things like the carpals in the wrist and the tarsals in the heel, and those are essentially cube-shaped or round. There's a special class of short bone called sesamoid bones. Sesamoid bones are bones that are embedded in soft tissue, and those are things like the patella, the kneecap. Flat bones are things like the ribs, the plates of the skull, and the sternum. Some of these might seem long, like the ribs, but they aren't long bones because they don't have bulges at the ends, and because even though they aren't long, they are still flat. There are also irregular shaped bones. These are ones that connect usually to multiple other bones and have bulges. These are things like your vertebrae and the bones in the face. This is the general structure of a long bone. You have one end that bulges out, you have a middle skinny section, and you have another end that bulges out. The parts that bulge out, you have two of them, one that's closer to the body and one that's further away from the body. The one that is closer to the body is called the proximal epiphysis. The one that is further away from the body is called the distal epiphysis. In the middle, the skinny part is called the diaphysis. At the end of the bone, where it would connect to other bones, there is cartilage. It's called articular cartilage. Articular cartilage is there to lubricate and cushion the bone from its connection to other bones. Articular or articulation means that it's part of a joint. There would be articular cartilage here as well. This is, by the way, is the femur in the thigh. In the epiphysis is spongy bone. It's got open holes where there would be red marrow. These sections here and here, where there's a gap in the spongy bone, is called an epiphyseal plate. That's where the bone is growing as you're maturing and is sometimes referred to as a growth plate. In the diaphysis, you have periosteum, which covers the entire bone. Not just in the diaphysis, actually, but covers the entire bone. It's a thin membrane connective tissue. You have compact bone on either side. And in the middle is the medullary cavity, which in adults stores something called yellow marrow, which is mostly fat and stores energy. We'll next look at what compact and spongy bone would look like under a microscope. Compact bone, you may have looked at before, looks like this, where you would see a large opening with rings and smaller openings and little cracks between them. This entire unit, this entire circle that is going around this central canal is called an osteon. In the middle is a central canal. It's an opening where there would be blood vessels and nerves in that bone tissue. Around the outside of the central canal are lacunae, is the plural. Lacuna is the singular. Those are the holes in the bone tissue where osteocytes or bone cells would live. This white section here, this would all be solid bone tissue, extracellular matrix, which is mostly calcium phosphate with some collagen fibers in between. These that you see under the microscope are not the collagen fibers. They're actually small gaps or holes between the bone cells that let them pass chemicals between them and communicate. Those tunnels are called canaliculi, which is plural. A single canal or single tunnel is a canaliculus. Spongy bone is less regular in how it looks. There are thinner portions of bone. These extensions, they're called trabeculae. In the trabeculae are the lacunae, where the osteocytes would be. And in between the trabeculae would be the red marrow. Red marrow is what creates blood cells. The functions of bone are here. Bones support, protect, move the body, as well as do something called hematopoiesis, store energy, and store calcium. We'll look at the specifics to that. Bones support the weight of the body. Things like the vertebrae, the hips, the leg bones all support the weight of the body and give it shape, like the face bones. Bones provide protection. Your skull protects your eyes and brain. Your vertebrae protect your spinal column, your spinal cord. Your ribs protect your lungs and your heart. And your pelvic bones protect your reproductive organs and lower digestive organs. Bones help provide structure for you to move, things like your arms, legs, fingers. Hematopoiesis now, that's the technical term for creating blood cells. And it's the marrow that's contained within the bone that creates new blood cells. Bones store energy because of that yellow marrow. The yellow marrow is high in fat, which is why it's that color, as opposed to the red marrow, which is red because of the iron required for the blood cells. So the energy storage is done by the yellow marrow in the medullary cavity of long bones. Calcium storage. The extracellular matrix of bone tissue is made of calcium. Your body needs calcium, not just for bones, but for muscles to work and for blood to clot when it needs to. And so if your blood is lacking calcium, then your body will release hormones that trigger the bones to dissolve slightly, releasing calcium into the blood so that the muscles can still work correctly, or so that the blood can clot if there's a bruise or a cut. Lastly, today we'll cover how bones are formed. There are two different types of bones, how they form. There are intramembranous bones, like the bones of the skull, and there are endochondral bones, which are most of the bones of the body. The intramembranous bones, like the plates of the skull, start off as soft connective tissue, a cartilage type tissue, and eventually there are osteoblasts in there. Osteoblasts are cells that create or deposit bone tissue, and they will start to calcify that soft tissue and make it harder. That's why babies are born with a soft skull, because these intramembranous bones are still calcifying or hardening. Most bones in the body are endochondral bones. They start off as cartilage, and eventually the cartilage will start to absorb calcium phosphate, calcium chloride, and other calcium salts, and become calcified and start to harden. That hardened cartilage prevents the chondrocytes, the cartilage cells, from surviving, and they die. That now calcified cartilage with dead chondrocytes in it is broken down by a type of cell called an osteoclast. An osteoclast is a type of bone cell that releases acids that dissolve calcium salts and calcium minerals. Right after osteoclasts dissolve that calcified cartilage, right behind them are osteoblasts. Osteoblasts are cells, again, that create new bone tissue. When the osteoblasts are entirely encased in bone tissue around them, they then transform their function and stop laying down new bone, and they are called osteocytes, where they would focus on maintaining the bone tissue around them. Thanks for making it all the way through. I hope everything was clear enough, but if not, make sure that you ask your instructor for clarification or any extensions to what you've seen here today.